Let's rank some serial killers. I just spent the last couple of days gathering and researching some of the worst and most repulsive psychopaths ever. And today I will be talking about them, discussing their behaviors and ranking them in a tier list. For your leisure, pleasure and probably sadism. And I bet you don't want to miss some of these uneasy stories. So prepare yourselves. Maybe grab a snack, get all comfy in your couch and let's go. Disclaimer, this video may and will contain jokes as well as a humorous tone. I do not like any of these guys nor do I idolize them. I'm just a stupid guy that likes to make jokes about serious things, okay? Okay. Jeffrey Dahmer. And why don't we start with one of the most popular ones? Partly because Netflix did a show about him. Cool show, by the way. This dude is almost a blueprint of a serial killer. And that's why we are starting today's list with him. From a very troubled childhood which revolved around getting beaten by his parents, seeing them arguing all day and getting bullied by them to getting bullied in school, being always alone and a weird fixation on dead animals, that's just the perfect environment for the creation of a serial killer. And that's not me trying to justify his behaviors, no. I'm just saying that you should have all seen this coming. Like, from a very young age, he was obsessed with dead animals, like a weird obsession. He would even kill stray dogs to see what would happen when they died, and the parents were just like, yep, that's weird. Well, let's keep on arguing. On puberty, he then started developing sexual arousal to the dead thoughts, and that is one of the reasons that led him into the first crime. At the time he was 18 and he was living alone because his parents had divorced. Well, he welcomed an hitchhiker and after having that good old chick clap, he killed him, dissolved his body in acid, pulverized his bones with a hammer and discarded the remains in the nearby woods. Weird after sex kink? Well, interestingly enough, his next killings would not occur for almost a decade, but after that time passed and when he started a killing, oh boy, he couldn't stop. He would go to gay bars, persuade the victims into telling them they would be super famous model stars because bitch slay. And yes, he was a master of charisma and very intelligent, which wasn't really a good combination. Then he would drug them, them, try to turn them into zombies with lobotomy and acid. He would kill them, have sex with the dead bodies, cut them to pieces, take photos of the cutted down bodies, and he would also eat some parts of the bodies because he wanted to make the guys a part of him. Jeez.
Why the cannibalism? It made me feel like they were a permanent part of me.
He did that to at least 17 different people. Eventually he got caught because one of his victims managed to escape and got into prison sentenced for life. And shortly after that he died, beaten to death. Jeez, very disturbing guy. And he goes into the almost made me puke tier. By the way, here's the tier list. I had to change the names because I didn't feel good giving a maniac person an S tier, so I opted to what the fuck, almost made me puke, sickening, and it could be worse. Harold Shipman. This is probably the most uncommon one. He had a good upbringing, he was very popular in his school, and he even became a doctor. Not normal in serial killers, usually they just have a fucked up childhood. Still, this dude was able to allegedly kill more than 200 people. Allegedly, because he only got persecuted by 15 of those. However, even if yes, he did have a lot of murders, I don't think this is the worst. He just used to overdose them and that was it. It's not the weirdest, it's not the most cruel. He even killed himself, maybe guilt, who knows. It could be worse, could be worse. Albert Fish, the real-life boogeyman for the intimates. Yet again another troubled childhood. Getting beaten, this time no dad figure, he got into an orphanage where he also got beaten regularly, was sexually assaulted, not the greatest of childhoods. And well, that translated into his adult life. Surprisingly enough, he was even married and had 6 children. Very normal, but since he is on this list, he most definitely wasn't a normal person. He started having affairs with other men, sexually assaulted people, and since this was early 1900s, no one really cared. But then he started killing the victims. And well, he mainly focused on black people, intellectually impaired and little boys, and this all is very bad, truly. But I was going to put him in the sickening tier. Yes, he did the killing and the raping and whatever, but it could be not worse, but it could be weirder. Until I found out that he also ate a little girl, in the pure sense of the word. I'm not gonna go into details, I don't wanna go into details, but he is going into the almost made me puke tier. He just doesn't go into the what the fuck tier because the number of the victims weren't that high. Around 10 allegedly, and by the way he also died, this time by electric chair. Robert Hansen. Now this one is gonna make you think. His childhood wasn't the worst. There were no abuses that I am aware of, no violence towards him from his parents, and he really liked to hunt, having an hobby. That will be important in a bit. But something that was very weird with him, and that is very common amongst serial killers, is that he was very shy, like complete isolation. It was described as being painfully shy, which led him to not having that much luck with women at the time. And of course, because of that, he also got very much bullied in school, like a lot of bullying, which led him to burn a fucking school bus in his adult life. Regardless of that, he managed to have a pretty normal life. Besides the school bus burning, he had children, he had a wife, he was a baker, he was very respected in his community, but that wasn't enough, of course. That's why he's in the list. The bullying from school still tormented him. The lack of early female attention still fucked with him. And I am also fucked, and you are also fucked. So he started mixing his hobby, the hunting, with his weird desires. He managed to take women into his car, pointed a gun at them, raped them, and then took them into a house that he had in the middle of the woods, a place that he used for hunting and that was only accessible by plane or boat, and in this time he would not use it for the hunting of animals. I trust in your mental capabilities. I know that you kinda already know what is going to happen and that you pieced it all together. Yes, he would hunt the women. He would let them loose in the middle of the woods, track them and hunt them with a bow and arrow. After that, after the killing, he would bury them, mark them on a map and take some jewelry as a prize. He did that to at least 17 different women. Womp womp. Eventually he got caught by the FBI and was sentenced to life in prison, dying there. But holy moly bro, this was certainly one of the most creative ones. That I gotta give it to him. Sickening tier. And by the way, if you are liking the video until now, go ahead, give me a like, maybe subscribe, and I might send you a cookie. And we all know you like cookies, or else I'm gonna hunt you. Luis Garavito, La Bestia. A Colombian serial killer, almost 200 kills, more than 200 attacks on people, and most of them underage boys. Luis Garavito is yet again someone who had a very fucked up childhood. He was beaten by his father and by his mom got beaten by his dad. One time he tried to save his sister from getting beaten, but he got tied into a tree and he was the one who got the beating, and I think he got raped there. He was raped by his neighbor. He also got bullied a lot in school, and his father didn't even let him get a girlfriend or friends if he was capable of making them. His father was so disgusting that one time he molested a child, and his father got mad with him, not because of the molesting, but because the child was a boy and not a girl. Giga Chad that, I guess.
Una persona maltratada, fue una persona que en sus años de juventud su papá lo maltrató.
This all led to La Bestia starting molesting kids and eventually killing them. The problem is that it was not just a killing. He would torture them, rape them very violently, getting more and more violent with each crime. He even started performing necrophilia and self-made religious rituals.
En esa obsesión que tenía por poder y por dinero, y opté por vender el alma al diablo.
Not to mention that he would always keep a finger off the victims as a prize. He eventually got caught and got sentenced for life, dying in prison at the age of 66. Odd number to die for someone who is called La Bestia, or the Beast for you non-Spanish speakers. This one goes to the what the fuck tier. He not only raped, killed, tortured, cannibalized hundreds of victims, but they were all minors. And that's no bueno. Actually, that's very far from bueno. Israel Keys. This guy was just crazy. He apparently had a normal life, he had kids, he had a wife, but he just liked to roam around the country, robbing banks and killing people. It was very weird. Actually, in one of his last crimes, he had sex with a frozen body. Come on, bro. At least heat it up. Well, ultimately that victim was his downfall. He started using her debit card and eventually the police got him, and yeah, that was it. Very disturbing, but I mean, it could be worse. At least he didn't dress himself as a clown in the weekends and kill young boys. Oh no. John Wayne Gacy. And the clown is here, but of clown he had absolutely nothing. Cause this guy was smart as fuck. Actually, when he firstly got into prison for committing a sexual assault, by the way, he was married at the time, he was supposed to be in prison for 10 years, but because he was so charismatic and so fucking smart, he was able to leave after only 18 months. Well, after that, he moved to another city because he got divorced for obvious reasons, and he started a new life from the ground up. No one knew what he had done. He was self-employed, he was very liked by his community, even the cops liked him. And he was also a scum of the earth who killed young boys that wanted a summer job. When police found out who had killed those 33 young boys, they couldn't believe it. They couldn't believe that it was the charismatic, cool guy at the bar. The guy who dressed himself as a clown on the weekends because he was cool. That weird guy had 27 dead bodies buried under his house. They were giving so much bad smell and they were occupying so much space that he couldn't bury anyone there anymore. He had to bury them outside his house. He had no more space for dead bodies. Actually, sometimes he would ask kids to go under his house to clean it because he said that something was wrong with the pipes and he wanted people to clean it just to feel like they were going into the dead bodies. And I mean, the world is a sick place full of sick people. Actually, when he got into prison, he was sentenced for death by lethal injection, and his last words were "kiss my ass," clearly showing a big lack of remorse. By the way, fun fact, if I can use the word fun here. When he died, the day he died, Jeffrey Dahmer, if you remember him, got baptized in prison. Very fucking weird. Well, he goes into the almost made me puke tier. Oh yeah, and he also got beaten by his dad. The usual. Ed Kemper. Let's talk about one of the most insane ones. Even if yes, in terms of quantity of deaths, it's not the biggest one, you know. He only killed 8 people, one of them being his mom and 2 grandparents. What he did to the corpses is what fucks up with my head. And I'm even going to jump his childhood stuff. You already know the drill. Bullied by his mom, like his mom was a big piece of shit to him, and part of the reason why he did what he did, not trying to give excuses, just pointing a fact. He also got bullied in school, he liked to kill animals, the usual. Everything changes when he kills his grandparents at the age of 15. He killed his grandmother because he wanted to know what it felt like killing her, and then he killed his grandfather because he didn't want him to suffer from the death of his grandmother. Jeez. Well, he got into a mental facility at 15 years old, and from that point onwards, until he got released at 20-something, he didn't get any female interaction, and that turned out to not be the greatest of ideas, because when he got released, oh man, he got on the hunt. With his charisma and very well-spoken nature, like he was a genius, more than 140 IQ, he starts the killing, and he could have just been a normal serial killer. Yes, very deplorable, yes, not the greatest of hobbies, but he could just, you know, capture them, kill them, have sex with the dead bodies, yes, with the dead bodies, because they couldn't reject him that way. But no, he had to stand out. And how did he stand out exactly? He would cut them into pieces, have sex with the dead bits of the body, and then it is said that he would fuck the throats of the victims. The fucking throats. And there is even an explanation for it. It's like reversing, he said. In anal normal vanilla sex, it's like the anus sucks your ding-dong in, but in freshly cut throat sex, you have to force your way in. This is undoubtedly one of the most disturbing pieces of knowledge that I do have.
As I'm sitting there with a severed head in my hand, talking to it, or looking at it.
But there is more. He would also take the heads of the decapitated victims and bury them in front of his window, looking up, because that's the way his mom liked to be looked at, you know, metaphorically, from below. He really liked his mom, and by the way, talking about his mom, she got the same fate. He even said that a week before she died, he knew he was gonna kill her. And well, everything that I said, she got the same, but with the addition of getting darts thrown at her head and her vocal cords being ripped out of her, you know, body, while he screamed at her, "You can't scream at me anymore, can you?" Really not the most sane guy. Even if, yes, he was very intellectual. Like, if you go and you see some of his interviews on YouTube, you really question yourself if that is, like, a bad guy.
And I'm about to go crazy, literally. I'm about to go completely flywheel loose and just fall apart. I say, wow, this is insane. And then I told myself, no, it isn't. You're saying that, and that makes it not insane.
Is he a bad guy? Well, probably. He goes into the what the fuck tier. Diogo Alves. Honestly, I'm just putting this guy here because he's the first known serial killer from my motherland, Portugal. Cristiano Ronaldo, pastel de nata, you know the drill. He just used to rob people and throw them down an aqueduct, and he did it to more or less 70 people, but it was back in the day, like early 1500s. Everyone did some weird shit back in the old days. By the way, fun fact, his head is still among us, yeah. After he died, someone dug his grave and took his head out to sell it or something. Portugal team, Elizabeth Bathory, yet another one from the good old days. And this is an interesting one. My lady was born in a rich family, and back in the day, a rich family was a fucking rich family. So her life was very good. She eventually got married to a random dude, and that's where shit started. Her husband, for some reason, would capture and torture people in their castle or whatever, and weirdly enough she got used to it. And one time her husband had to leave to do something, you know, the story is a little messed up because it was a very long time ago, but she basically, as it is said, allegedly, she killed something in between 35 to 600 girls, but not just kill them. No, she would torture, torture, and even cannibalize some of the girls. And well, the king even got involved and started some type of investigation, but since they were very rich and at the time very influential, nothing really happened, and we can't really know for certain. And yeah, since we can't really know, she's going into the sickening tier. But if that is true, if that number like 600 girls is true, holy man. Pedrinho Matador. Pedrinho Rodrigues Filho. A serial killer from my boys in Brazil. And no, I'm not coming to Brazil. É muito longe para ir de avião. Demora muito tempo. Well, this dude might be one of the most likable serial killers, more or less. In his career, he was convicted of killing at least 71 people, but by his own words, he killed more than 100. And just like always, he had a very rough childhood. He was born in the middle of the woods, like, yeah, out there. His father was very violent towards him and towards his siblings and mother. He was so violent that he beat his mom so much while pregnancy that he was born with a dent on his head. The reason why I said that he might be one of the most likable serial killers is because he was said to only kill bad people. People who went against him, you know, rapists, killers. Most of his homicides actually were while he was in prison. But this is a double-edged sword. You see, killing rapists and killers we could tolerate and even appreciate. But he also said that he killed people who went directly against him. And he was not really known for having the most sharp morals. Actually, his first kill, he was only 13 years of age, and he killed his cousin after an argument. The way he killed him, he took him, placed him in a wood crusher, and since his body didn't pass all the way through, like his arm got stuck, he, you know, cut it to pieces and placed the parts of the body in the wood crusher, so, you know, everything would be destroyed.
Empurrei ele pensando que ele ia passar o corpo dele, só passou o braço, depois piquei ele no facão. Aí foi passando, só não passou a cabeça, caiu escorrodando.
He also is said to have killed one guy who snorted a lot. He also killed the vice president of his town because... yeah. And by the way, another kill, another fun fact. He killed his dad in prison, too. Yeah, as you saw, his dad was a scumbag, so of course he would end up in prison. And he killed him with 22 stabs. Why 22? Because his father killed his mom with 21 stabs. So he did one more stab to him, and he also chewed a part of his heart and spat it into his father's dead body.
Mas não que eu engoli. Eu masquei e joguei em cima do corpo do meu pai dentro da cela, no chão.
This dude really has a crazy story. He eventually, after 34 years in prison, got released. He became a YouTuber, he became a writer, he devoted himself into Christianity, and he also went into a lot of podcasts. If you speak Portuguese, yeah, go and see the podcasts. At least one he went to. But he was killed in 2023 in a drive-by, and his legacy ended with him. My opinion, I think he was batshit crazy, like completely cuckoo up here. He actually asked for Satan to help him while he tried to defeat his enemies. Insane. But who am I to judge? I'm just a weird guy on top of a green screen, in a chair, in whatever is this.
Você pode ver quando você mata uma pessoa, você não percebe. Pode perceber, você ficar olhando de longe, distância de 2 metros. Pode ver que sobe um ramoinho assim, preto. Para ver que vai embora.
It could be worse. Could be worse. Ted Bundy. This one you know. Almost everyone knows this guy. It's probably the most well-known serial killer. You know, 30 plus kills, very charismatic. But how did he end up like that? Well, he grew up with an absent father. His mother was very young, so they had to move to their grandparents' house, and his grandparents were very violent. He also thought his mom was his sister for some unspoken reason. But I mean, that wasn't the worst childhood ever. If compared to some of childhoods that we have been seeing in this list, it was weird, yes, but not the worst. Well, this dude just had a roller coaster of a journey. He went into university, he got in love, he broke up, he dropped university, found out his sister was his mother, finally, got into university again, got into his old love again, broke up with her out of revenge, dropped out of university, got into university again in law school, and while all of that, he was kidnapping, torturing, raping and killing dozens of women. Two of them with just 12 years of age, always getting more and more violent to satisfy his weird killing needs. Until he got arrested. After getting arrested, since he was going to be his own lawyer, he was studying in the school library and he managed to run. And after the run, he kept doing more and more crimes, getting more and more violent, breaking bones, biting chunks out of the body of the victims before killing them. And he did that to allegedly 30 different women, until he finally got arrested for good. And as I said, dude was ungodly smart, because he didn't even ask for a lawyer in his trials with all of this. I know you're probably gonna say that I'm completely messed up in the head, but I'm going to place him in the sickening tier. I mean, at least he didn't eat anybody, at least he didn't torture anybody for 3 to 4 months at a time. You know, we have to look at it this way. He was a big piece of shit. Everyone in this list is a big piece of shit, but it's a sickening tier. Maybe next time tell your son that you are actually his mother, not his sister. David Parker Ray. And we reached the last serial killer of this list. Comment down below if you want a part 2. For me, this is the worst, most brutal, and completely what the fuck serial killer that I've had the displeasure of knowing about. Let's start from the beginning. And as you can probably guess, his childhood was also fucked up. Lived with his grandparents because his parents didn't have any money. He never saw his mom. His dad was an alcoholic. And this time it's not that he was violent. No, he was just fucking weird. Actually, when he was a teenager, he started showing him pornography. But it couldn't be normal sex, could it? No, it was fucking sadomasochist sex on a 14-year-old horny boy. You just can't do it. And well, that really translated into his adult life. He started to have trouble with finding women because no one wanted to be fucking tortured and no one liked the fucking things that he liked because of the sadomasochism, whatever background. Until he found the perfect fit. Yes, someone really liked to have the ass fist. And as you can probably tell, since he is for me the worst in this fucking list, that wasn't a good idea, like at all. He started dressing himself as a cop and picking up prostitutes from the streets. He would then take them to his house, and well, the rest is really bad, really creepy, and I am gonna tell you because that's what I'm here for. With the help of his fucking crazy wife, sister, daughter, and a random fucking dude. Why? Because yes, because apparently the guy had really fucking weird friends. He would place them in a chair, like in a special chair, and make them listen to this tape. And I am warning you, I'm gonna give you the tape for you to listen a bit, and it's one of the most disgusting, terrifying things that you will ever hear. This is not for the weak of heart, okay? Just listen to this.
Hello there, bitch. Are you comfortable right now? I doubt it. Wrists and ankles chained, gagged, probably blindfolded. You are disoriented and scared too, I would imagine. Perfectly normal under the circumstances. You are obviously here against your will. Totally helpless. Don't know where you're at. Don't know what's going to happen to you. You're very scared or very pissed off. I'm sure that you've already tried to get your wrists and ankles loose. No, you can't. Now you're just waiting to see what's going to happen next. You probably think you're going to be raped, and you're sure right about that. You've been taken by force, and you're going to be kept and used by force. What all this amounts to is that you're going to be kept naked and chained up like an animal to be used and abused anytime we want to, any way that we want to. And you might as well start getting used to it, because you're going to be kept here and used until such time as we get tired of f***ing around with you. And we will, eventually, in a month or two, maybe 3. It's no big deal.
Well, after the tape was finished, the fun began. As you've probably heard, you would keep them for as long as 4 months, performing sexual, physical and psychological torture every day, no rest, hours at a time, inflicting as much pain as it's humanly possible, trying to not kill them, to prolong the suffering. And he did that to, allegedly, at least, I am sorry, 60 different women over the course of 30 years. Luckily, one of the victims was able to escape fighting his wife, and his reign of terror got to an end. He also died in prison, because I mean, I have to tell you that he died, because Jesus fucking Christ, and he goes, of course, into the what the fuck tier. Even if he apparently didn't do anything to minors, I mean, that was the minimum, and he didn't cannibalize anybody, at least that we know of, or at least that I know of in my researches. I can't even talk anymore. I still find that this was too much, man. That tape alone, that is one of the most terrifying and uneasy tapes that I've ever heard in my entire life. And that Petey X McMill tape wasn't easy to listen, bro. And this is it. Tier list completed. I once again want to emphasize that I do not like any of these guys. I do not idolize any of these guys, okay? I just like to make some jokes because that's who I am. But I truly, truly think this is one of the most interesting topics in all of psychology. These minds, it's very interesting to me, even if it's fucked up. And well, I really hope you liked the video. This was the first long-form video of this channel right here, but I am sure it won't be the last. So, this is it. Thanks for watching. Comment down below if you want a part 2 of more serial killers, because I clearly don't have nothing better to do. And peace, weird brothers.